Hi, I'm Ken Rubin and welcome to Viewpoints. With us today is Michael Falco, the Assistant City Manager of the City of Inglewood, California. Today we're going to be discussing his thesis entitled, Does Homeland Security Constitute an Emerging Academic Discipline? Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Ken. It's great to be here.
Great. Hey, we'll start off with a really easy question. This is a difficult topic, but why did you pick this topic?
Actually, it intrigued me that there was such an ongoing debate about whether or not Homeland Security had enough force or thrust to be an academic discipline, basically 10 years post 9/11. And I had the opportunity back when I was in grad school the first time studying computer science, watching the increase in the need for software engineering to become an academic discipline. And it took about 10 years afterward for it to become a discipline, and that was something that I got to, I guess, experience firsthand. And as a result, I wanted to bring that same theory and perspective to Homeland Security. It's something that was near and dear to my heart.
Okay, well, we all know research plays a huge part in a thesis. What methodology did you use?
I chose to look at the concept of an academic discipline from a case study approach. There wasn't really a lot of research out there that said, here are the specific components of what defines an academic discipline. For example, you can find the definition of academic and the definition of discipline, merge them together, but honestly, it doesn't really define what is an academic discipline. And what I found was, if I looked at other academic disciplines that had emerged over, say, the last 100 or 150 years, I wanted to see if I could draw a correlation between what caused them to become full-fledged academic disciplines, and if there was components of a framework that I could somehow derive from that and then apply Homeland Security, since it, of course, really began post 9/11.
Okay, so you went through this whole process. What were your key findings?
Basically, what I found was there was enough out there to define this analytical framework. And the analytical framework that I chose to comprise was, I started with the work of King and Brownell, and they basically said that there needed to be a community of scholars, there needed to be a communications network, and so forth. And it just wasn't enough for me. I said, there's something missing. And what I determined that was missing when I started to look at the case study disciplines, such as public administration, international relations, computer science, and so forth, I found that the projected demand for the discipline's knowledge was actually core. If you didn't have a massive need or demand for that knowledge, what would be the purpose of the discipline? Because over the last 150 years or so, education at the institutions of higher learning has changed, and it's sort of changed dramatically based on the input and needs of society. And so I drew the conclusion that there needed to be an interaction, or there was an interaction between academia, industry, and government. And so I claimed the concept of a triad. And right in the center of that triad was the human capital: you, me, faculty, government workers, industry workers, and so forth. And that triad is what drives it. But it was society and the influences that it had that drove academic disciplines.
Wow, fascinating. So, like I ask everybody else, did anything surprise you? What really jumped out at you that you weren't expecting?
What jumped out at me that I wasn't expecting was the need to come up with some empirical method or scoring model, if you will. I was expecting the framework to be enough. I was expecting to come up with these components, kind of a union of all the various scholars that have written about this for years. I even went all the way back to Aristotle, and I said, why is math and physics and medicine and law, why are those considered the first core disciplines? And so what surprised me was that wasn't enough. I wasn't quite there yet. And so I needed to develop a scoring model. And the scoring model that I came up with was in an effort to create a normalized percentage, because I felt like if I could say, well, if mathematics is a absolutely mature academic discipline, hundreds of years it's been around, no one would question it, then clearly it should have a high score. Well, how do you compare that to public administration, which has only been around since basically, the 1930s? At the end of the Great Depression, obviously the New Deal, so to speak, launched public administration and public policy as we know it. The same with international relations after the First World War. So I set out to try and find a method of calculating empirically a way to create this weighted distribution, if you will. And I stumbled into it by looking at the National Science Foundation, and they did an absolutely massive study. They do it quite frequently, where they look at all the PhD programs at every university, and they literally survey all the faculty at virtually every university in the country. Well, the data wasn't exactly what I needed, but it was very close. And that might be actually something that I can grab onto and go forward with in the future.
Well, outstanding. Well, we look forward to reading your thesis again
Thank
because
you.
it's a great document, and we really appreciate you sharing that with Viewpoints today. Thank
Indeed,
you.
thank you.
Mhm.